My name is Katie McIntyre, and I'm your host for the podcast, The Loving Cup, Elevate Your Gratitude. And we're coming to you from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this episode will air on Tuesday, February 27th, 2018. So today we have some words from Martina McBride to kick us off nicely. And she says, I feel like it's important to use the gift God gave me, my life and my career, to do something to make the world a better place. It's an easy thing for me to do. And I thought that her words really were fitting for the guests that are with me today. So I'd like to welcome Joyl Clance and Debbie Stack, both from WCNY in Syracuse. So ladies, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so what do you think? Does that quote fit with what we're going to talk about a little bit?
That is very apropos.
It's
good
pretty
work.
perfect.
All right, we'll keep it. So let's start off with having you introduce each other. So Joyl, would you introduce us to Debbie?
Yes, sitting next to me is Debbie Stack. Debbie Stack is our Senior Director at WCNY of Education and Community Engagement, and has been there. I believe she just hit an anniversary.
7 years.
So 7 years. So yes, she is a staple there at WCNY.
Perfect.
And Joyl Clance is our Senior Director of Premier Events, which is a division of WCNY. And she joined us, it seems like you've been with us all the time, Joyl.
Wild. It's like
so she
six
brings,
and a half months ago.
She brings a lot of enthusiasm and great events planning experience to WCNY.
Beautiful. And would you just give a quick snapshot of what WCNY is for someone who may not know what WCNY is?
WCNY is Central New York's public media or public broadcasting company. We are both television and radio, and then of course across all sorts of digital platforms. We also have a wonderful magazine. We do a lot of on-site and outreach programming, including the events that Joyl organizes for us. So we're the home of things like PBS Kids and Ken Burns documentaries. And also, Syracuse is the smallest city in the United States with a fully hosted classical music station, and that's right there at WCNY.
That's perfect. Thank you. Very good. So let's jump in and talk a little bit about gratitude for the two of you. So if you can share with me something that you are personally most grateful for from the past year.
Well, for me, it's kind of maybe an obvious answer, but and I truly mean this genuinely, that it's been the transition and the opportunity I've been given to work for WCNY. In my career, I've been in the events business for over 18 years, and I love this world. I'm very passionate about people and events, marketing, and I get to work for an organization and work with people like Debbie, and it's just at the highest level I've ever been at my career, and I'm extraordinarily thankful for that.
Wonderful.
For me, I think this past year was an interesting one. It was a renewed focus on the importance of health, and something I guess we take for granted, but I went out west, only the second or third time I've been out west in my life, to Yellowstone and Mount Rushmore and more. And I went with a friend who she was able to do the trip because she is now a survivor, cancer survivor. And it was just so exciting to be able to celebrate life and good health. And then just a couple of months ago, my daughter and husband and her husband's family were involved in a very serious car accident. And all worked out well, I'm happy to say, but boy, these reminders about the importance of good health so we can do whatever it is we're passionate about doing in life.
Really good.
Yeah, well said.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So what about if you think about your whole life? Is there something that jumps out about your whole life that you're just most grateful for?
I would say the journeys that I've been on. I think our journeys lead us and take us to the places that we get to, the people that we fall in love with or become friends with along the way, the careers that we have, the experiences, those journeys sometimes, although not always easy journeys, and there's hurdles there, but there's always that journey itself is a gift, because it usually teaches you. It makes you even more of the person that you are. So I really feel like the many journeys I've been on in my life have really helped to bring me to where I'm at, and be surrounded by loving people, a wonderful career, wonderful friends, and wonderful colleagues. I've actually never worked with so many colleagues and worked at such a large organization, and I've been in nonprofits for years, but it's amazing, the journeys along the way. So I think if you could sum it up, because it's hard for me. That's a hard question, Katie.
I know it is.
I'm very happy and thankful for pretty much everything on a regular basis, but I think that it's the journey that kind of sums up all of those things.
Very well said.
For me, my first inclination was to say something about family and family upbringing and support. But then what also flashed into mind is perhaps something that some people don't think about, and that is the ability to read and the gift of reading, which is taking me to all sorts of places. I've met all sorts of people through reading. It's expanded my ideas, brought awareness, appreciation for what is there in the world. We'll have an event coming up soon, and reading the nominations of women from Central New York who have done outstanding things, and that gift of being able to read is really marvelous. I look at reading almost as necessary to me personally as breathing.
It's beautiful. So what are you reading right now?
I would call myself an eclectic reader.
So you're not a one book at a time kind of person?
Not necessarily. Typically I'm a quick reader, so therefore one book at a time is fun. I typically read 3 books a week at least. So right now I've just cracked open the relatively new biography on Grant, Ulysses S. Grant, which is right from the get-go changing some ideas and stereotypes that I had learned about Ulysses S. Grant. I finished one on Da Vinci, and then I love fiction. I'm a fiction writer as well as nonfiction writer, but fiction, I love the power of stories.
I do too. I love that.
I agree.
Common. That's super. So how about if you can think of something that you are grateful for now, but at the time you were not grateful for?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. I think growing up, it's kind of cool how life is, but you live in the moment. And I was thinking about the fact, and maybe it's because as I grow older, you have more of appreciation of the generations that have gone before you. And I think that that's something that recently that I've come to understand is so important. The trailblazers, that, hey, the things that I've been able to accomplish in my own life and career really is built on the shoulders of those that have gone before me. And when you think about women in particular, just, barely 100 years ago, we weren't voting, and career options were few, and even medical advances in terms of women were so different. And we have these trailblazers that have really made it possible for me to have a wonderful career and a wonderful life. So that's something I'm really, really conscious of more now and very grateful for.
Beautiful.
I think growing up when you're young, everything's a race and a speed, and how can I get there faster? And it was almost like I wasn't grateful enough for the time around me to slow down sometimes. Still to this day, that is a hard one for me, and it's something that I work on to remind myself that it's okay to slow up a little bit. And I'm a big nature is my nurturer, and so getting outdoors, and I know that old saying, you'll stop and smell the roses, right? Well, that's not an easy thing to do when you're kind of built as a person that's a busybody, that's just a go, 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 you know, a mover and a shaker, I like to say. And I'm surrounded by so many women and men and colleagues that are like that. So you kind of magnetize to each other. But it's, you know, I'm really learning each day that, and being more appreciative and grateful for that slow period, that time of slowing up and saying, you know, to read that book because you don't do that, or to sit there and just sit on the front porch. You know, I love just sitting on our front porch with my dogs and my boyfriend and just watching the cars go by and listening to the birds and watching the birds. And it's amazing, when you were younger, the thought of sitting on a front porch drove me crazy. I hated sitting still. So, you know, I really think I'm much more grateful for that time now.
That's super. I think I may need to get you a new wind chime or something. Something you need to listen to while you're sitting on the front porch.
Yes.
That's good. Yeah, to me that sounds like an ideal way to spend some time. But yeah, when you're younger, it's like, oh, we're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Right, and we also don't think about that balance between work and life,
right,
the rest of life. And a lot of times that really does get out of whack.
Yeah.
So, you know, having those kinds of periods of time, I know every year I have said to myself how many times I've set a schedule. Once a month I'm supposed to spend 10 or 15 minutes just trying to realign my priorities. Have I, you know, thinking back the month before or whatever. But it's hard to sometimes make time to do those sorts of things. So this idea of sitting on the porch and really, and I love the nature as a nurture. That's a wonderful, wonderful way to look at things.
It's tough because especially in our industry, especially with events and education, community engagement, we're all about multitasking and moving quickly and balancing projects. And that's great, and I'm thankful for that. But it is where you're constantly on the phone in this digital era where you're on social media and you're connecting with people, and that is key, and that's what we believe in. But it's reminding yourself of taking those times to separate and sit down on that front porch or wherever it is, and taking that, you know, half an hour breather and just kind of putting aside the phone, putting aside the social media, putting aside everything, and just having some time for you or with your loved one.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah, putting away the phone is a good. Our dining room is phone free, so we don't.
Nice.
No one can take any device to the table.
Yeah.
Because we're so attached to our phones.
That's
like,
smart.
It's our, you know, it's our Google machine. It tells us everything. So I want to talk about your event, but I wanted to, before we do that, if you could each share with me what you're most grateful for about your role at WCNY and in each other. So we'll make sure everyone's feeling good.
Well, if I can start, in the short amount of time, I'll start with being, you know, why I'm grateful I get to work with Debbie. That's an easy one for me. She brings a tremendous amount of experience and background. She's put herself out there and has lived a lot of life, and she brings that experience to where someone like myself, who I've had a few mentors in life, but I have someone that I could truly help me build in my career. Debbie's on the forefront for me at WCNY of who I look to. Her education background is not something I have strong, strengths in. Working with kids, recently we had an event up in our education center, and it was with little kids from 3 to 9 years old. That, in my 18 years of events, I've never done an event like that. And so it's amazing if you just turn to the resources around you, they could really truly help you grow and develop. Even if you think you're an expert in your field, there's always room to grow. And Debbie, I can turn to her. She's got lots of creative outlets and lots of great ideas. And so taking an event concept and bringing it to someone like Debbie, I know it's going to only make that raise the bar and bring it up a level.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you, Joyl. That's very sweet. And I think that takes a lot of trust and really a dedication. It says something about your level of commitment to the organization, but also to the people that we serve. And to me, that's really what it's about. It is a privilege to do the job that I do, to work with the people that I work with, but most importantly of all, to be making some level of impact in the lives of the communities, because we're across 19 counties, and in the lives of the people that we serve. So our tagline is WCNY Connected, and we live that. And so coming together, to not have to do events by myself, for example. In the past, a lot of the logistics and all that, kind of learned it and did it. But now, not only do I in Joyl, for example, have a logistics events expert, but also somebody who great enthusiasm, which is something I really love about Joyl, is the positive attitude. And seeing her so positive no matter what's going on, I think really elevates the mood for the entire organization and for the people that we encounter. I think that's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's contagious.
Thank you. Yeah, I just believe in the power of positivity, and thank you. And it works both ways. I think if you give that, people pick up on it, and they will bring that also, to the forefront. Because for me, I'm 6.5 months in, so I'm learning so much still about WCNY. It's a great learning curve. The organization is much larger than I actually had, I wasn't even aware of when I came in the doors. And we're building. And so with building comes bumps and bruises, but then comes wins. And we just had a win on Saturday with an event. So it's really a great place to work, that you can bring in community, bring community together, and do it through arts, through innovation, through creativity, through music, through television, and then of course through education. So I think, I love that I get to work in so many areas that all are married to each other, and speak to each other, and it just helps us to be on a united front, if you will, when we're working and carrying out our mission.
Awesome. Yeah, and you have a beautiful building in downtown Syracuse.
Yes.
So it's that's a nice addition to downtown.
Yeah, and if I could just say, anyone who would love to come to our building and see it or get a tour, Debbie gives amazing tours. And I, will tell you, we love people coming down there to see us. So anytime, please.
We believe that WCNY is the community's asset. So we believe we're owned by the community. So that's their headquarters to come into. And we're happy to be a LEED Platinum building, very conscious about energy and environmental issues. But we're happy to showcase what we do, hear suggestions. That awesome. Again is that can help energize us to do even more.
And if you weren't aware, Katie, we're actually a facility as well. So on top of everything Debbie said, we actually allow community members and businesses to come in and host their events that we can help them with, or have their annual meetings, have their trainings.
That's great.
So we are a massive facility that can also offer that to the community.
That's
Lots
good
of
to know.
good stuff going on.
Yes, there
Beautiful,
is.
beautiful. So let's talk a little bit about a special event that you have coming up in Seneca Falls. So it's great that you're in Seneca Falls today. The Makers Award at the Women's Rights National Historical Park. So can you tell me about your event?
I'm going to say it is one of my most favorite parts of my job. And it's exciting and humbling at the same time. 6 years ago, we began something called Women Who Make America, looking for the community to nominate people who are making contributions in their community, big and small, careers, on the home front, wherever those contributions may be. And that was tied into a national PBS documentary that they produced a few more episodes in subsequent years. We had such a great response from the community regarding those awards, and felt so excited to hear the awardees' comments and everything that we decided if we could do it, we were going to continue it. So now we're in our 6th year, and it's amazing. Sometimes we even get employment applications, or we read articles in the newspaper, and former winners will actually cite the Makers Awards, that they were very important. And having the Makers Awards here in Seneca Falls is really an essential part of the event. I mean, this is the birthplace of women's rights, and every one of the winners say when they come here for the award ceremony, there is something almost mystical about being here.
They're right.
So, and Katie, we're pleased to say you were a Makers Award winner.
And
yes.
will be our special guest speaker this year at our new luncheon that's post the ceremony over at the beautiful Gould Hotel.
I'm excited for that.
And the date of this is on Thursday, March 8th. It will be at 11 a.m., the award ceremony. It is free and open to the public. The park is so wonderful in accommodating us there in the chapel, the historic chapel, so you can, again, feel the spirits of those who, went before us. So we'll have that free award ceremony, and then celebrate.
And celebrate at 12:30 over again at the Gould Hotel. We are asking people to RSVP through our website for both, because the chapel and the park is extraordinary to set the scene and the backdrop. However, it could fill up, so we do want people to visit us at WCNY.org, where they can RSVP for either the ceremony and or register to purchase a seat for only $20 for the luncheon. We have our guest speaker, Katie, again, as well as some giveaways, a wonderful luncheon that they're providing, and we're going to do a champagne toast to honor these wonderful women, these 10 honorees, and it'll be a great networking opportunity as well for those who attend.
That's great.
Yeah, I think that's something that the winners really like, that opportunity to network and have time together. And they've been saying that, so that's why we decided, let's get together after the ceremony.
Yes.
And I think lots of people went and had lunch, so having lunch together is that makes sense. So can you give some highlights about the honorees? If there's things that you're grateful for about them, because it's a wide county range and a wide range of women.
And there are people who, for example, one woman has been making quilts of valor that then get delivered, and she personally delivers them to veterans. So just for them to feel kind of covered in love from the community. And the number of hours, if anyone's ever quilted, the number of hours she spends and is amazing. And one of her quilts is in the National Quilt Museum, one of her quilts of valor.
Wow.
In Kentucky. You have people, for example, a woman who really, we hear a lot about STEM in education, but she was seeing that young children, to kind of get excited and keep that momentum going. And so she started offering coding classes and technology classes, and that she's now turned that into a full-time business. The demand is there, and the comments from the students are really amazing. Another woman, very creative. Again, she happens to be both kind of goes across both library and education, and she wanted books to come alive and cooking to kind of come alive. So she combined the two. So kids are cooking and then going on field trips to restaurants to get behind the scenes. She brings in guest chefs into the classroom. The creativity of what's going on is amazing. Then another, we have...
right up your alley, Katie.
Yes. And working with refugees and refuting, in essence, some of the stereotypes that are out there, and also was very, very instrumental in creating a new Welcome Opportunity Center for refugees out towards the Utica area. Oh, I don't know. I could just, they're amazing.
I think
That's
we're grateful that they've accepted,
yes.
for one.
they all say the same things. Why me? I mean, there's so many people doing great things
So
out there.
humble.
They're very humble. And it's our privilege to call attention to the work that they are doing and the causes that they embrace on our behalf, really.
And they'll each, you'll hear some words about them at the ceremony. Debbie, who is our MC and host at the ceremony, will be, looking to have, as she calls up each honoree, they are going to speak and say some remarks this year. So that will be one way for attendees to really get to learn a little more insight from these wonderful women, and then as well as get to connect with them face to face at the luncheon afterwards. So if you can't make the ceremony, what a way to at least learn a little more about them, and then come hear an inspirational and a great speech and tying gratitude like today we're talking about to your presentation, Katie. But definitely, I mean, we're just so thankful to the nominators who took the time to submit that nomination. And, I'm grateful that we're able to continue this program and tie it to one of our television shows. We actually are going to have a team there that will be, capturing video, but ahead of time they're interviewing our honorees as well as coming out to the park and variety of...
Yep, so tune in on March 30th because they'll go
Yes.
in depth with the winners on that
great.
television show.
Don't want to miss that March 30th, right, Debbie?
Yep.
And they'll be, if you get our magazine, they're all listed in our magazine, and you can learn more about them. That comes out on March 1st.
Okay, beautiful. So before we wrap up, let's just share again with anyone in the audience. So if they want to purchase tickets or if they want to come to the free ceremony at the Wesleyan Chapel, which, by the way, is where the 1848 convention was held. So that first women's rights convention in Seneca Falls was held in the Wesleyan Chapel. So it really is a special place. So who would like to kind of share some details just to remind them, website and dates? And
Well, it's wcny.org/events. And again, the purpose of the event is the award ceremony itself, 11 a.m., March 8th, is free and open to the public. By just indicating you're coming, that just helps with setup. And then Joyl is spearheading the luncheon that follows. That will begin about 12:30. Take it away, Joyl.
Yeah, over at the Gould Hotel. So definitely, again, WCNY.org/events. Make sure you RSVP and or register, and that begins at 12:30 on March 8th post the ceremony. And we hope to see everybody there.
perfect. So that does bring us to the end of our time together. So thank you for tuning in to this podcast, The Loving Cup, Elevate Your Gratitude. We'll be back next week with 2 more guests. And until then, have a great week and share your gratitude. Bye-bye.